So that was it. Thanks that you're all here. Thanks Product Tank for being here. And now I would like to hand over to Julian.
Thanks, John. Cool. How is everyone doing tonight? So my name is Julian Weinmann. I'm a senior product management here at BCG Digital Ventures. I've been a product manager for 5 years now, and I've been with the company for 3 years. And today I'm actually not going to talk about DV. I'm going to talk about my first experience as a product manager, which was for Rocket Internet. Another show of hands thing. Who here has worked for Rocket Internet or a Rocket company, either now or in the past? All right, so maybe that's like, well, 20-30%. So, anyone in the room who doesn't know Rocket Internet? Oh, like 2 or 3, okay. So, yeah, I mean, Rocket Internet in Berlin at least used to be an institution. I would say between the years of 2008, maybe until 2015, 16, there was in Berlin pretty much no way to get around Rocket Internet. They were just really big. They were launching companies, usually 10, 20 companies a year. And Oliver Somewhere is a very famous man, kind of for a while, known as the most aggressive man on the internet. And Rocket Internet had this mantra of saying, when we build a new company, we want to go live within 100 days. And then 100 days later, the company needs to be independent of Rocket. So we're going to rehire the entire staff. That was the mantra, and then everything had to follow from that. So as you can see already from that, it was a very driven, fast-paced environment. And a lot of people went through kind of this Rocket school. So I think the story that I'm going to tell you is interesting in 2 ways. In one way, I think it's interesting for those of you who are maybe early in your product career, because I'm just going to share some lessons that I learned along the path. And it's also going to be interesting to learn a little bit more about kind of this Rocket Internet generation that I was a part of and that a lot of people here in the room apparently also were a part of. Good. So before I talk about Shopwings, maybe just a few words about myself. That's actually better. Thanks.
Yeah, you're welcome.
A few words about myself. So I'm a Berliner actually. I grew up just before the war came down. And then I decided to study mechanical engineering in Munich. But I really was undecided what to do for a while. So I started my own startup in parallel while I was still studying. It was called Probino. And it was a company we were trying to get the experience of doing wine tasting. Usually you go to the vineyard, you do wine tasting, we wanted to bring that to home. So we developed a product which is a wine tasting set. You have different wines, you have a little guide, and we sold it through a web shop. It was a cool idea. We didn't get rich from it. I think we didn't lose money either. We sold a couple of 100 sets and learned a lot of things along the way. And I decided that I didn't want to do that full time. But then when I came to graduate, I was really unsure what to do in terms of my professional future. I didn't really want to become an engineer. I had really good offers, including, for instance, doing a PhD at BMW in a really cool topic, which was robotics, human-machine interaction. But I think I would have done it for all the wrong reasons. Probably like to please my parents and so on, to work like for one of those nice companies. And I really wanted to stay in the entrepreneurial space. And so actually the way I went about it, I was looking at different job descriptions, like what you do when you come straight out of uni, kind of, okay, so what does a product manager do? What is a QA engineer? All these kind of things. And the product management topic really stuck with me. Because it combines different disciplines. There was a time when I was thinking about studying industrial design. So I'm into design. It also has technology, it has business, so it kind of combines all these worlds. And it's a very holistic way to build and develop products. So I wanted to do product management, but I didn't really know that much about product management. And for those of you who are product managers, you know it's not that easy getting into product management. So getting your first product management job is probably the hardest part about it. Because typically to get a product manager job you need 2 or 3 years of experience, right? So yeah, at the time I was looking around, and a friend of mine told me about this new venture that's starting up. It's called Shopwings, which is a Rocket Internet startup. and they were looking for a junior product manager. So yeah, I decided to apply, not thinking too much about it, and then they were telling me what I was doing. I had kind of my doubts at the time, especially about Rocket Internet, because so a couple of facts about Rocket Internet. They're not necessarily always very positively displayed in the press, because they're known as kind of copycats. The business model of Rocket Internet used to be, now it's more of a portfolio management company, and it used to be to look at successful business models from the US, copy them, and build them all over the globe. So they were really execution focused. And I think the interesting part is that they were launching in countries in Africa, in Southeast Asia, in South America, all over the globe. So I think Rocket was acting in dozens of countries. I actually don't know the exact numbers. But they didn't pride themselves very much with being innovative. It was more a copycat company. And on top of that, I mean, I told you a little bit about the mantra already. It wasn't known for having the best culture either. So the typical stay of a person that would join Rocket was to stay around 2 years. On the plus side, Rocket was a great way when you were young and driven and not that experienced to get a lot of responsibility quickly. They were really seeking for talent, and it was kind of at a time, I think it was 2014 for me, so it was like 2008 to 2014, 16, and now everybody is digital, but back then it was kind of that the talents didn't exist, so people didn't really know that much about online marketing, about SEO, about product management. So there wasn't a lot of talent actually, and they were sucking in kind of young people that were driven and kind of threw them on project, gave them lots of responsibility. They took kind of people in their early 20s and gave them 5-6 figure marketing budget and say just spend it. You know, that was kind of the attitude, and it was kind of this sink or swim mentality. Well, okay, so anyways, that's Rocket. I took the job. And I very quickly realized I didn't know that much about product management. And luckily, there was a senior product manager in the company, Daniel dos Santos, who sort of played a little bit the role of a mentor for me in the beginning. So in the beginning, for instance, I didn't really know how to write tickets. Like the whole concept was new to me. I was actually going on blogs and kind of figuring all these things out. What the hell is a roadmap? How do you write tickets? So the product managers of you know what that is, the other ones might be, I don't know. And the first kind of lesson I learned is when you're really junior, I think it's great to have a mentor who can help you in these things. And who on the one hand, kind of when you're messing up too much, is helping you out. And on the other hand, leaves you enough space to kind of make some mistakes on your own. So that was sort of one lesson I learned. Then I think within the first month, something really interesting happened. So actually, I forgot, I didn't really tell you about Shopwings. So Shopwings is a Instacart clone. Not sure how many people know Instacart. It's a company that delivers groceries to your door. So it's kind of same-day grocery delivery. Doesn't sound too crazy today with Amazon Fresh. There's other services here that became quite big. 2014, it was a novelty. Plus, we were offering sort of same-day delivery, not just same day, but you could actually order and get your food delivered within 2 hours. And the reason I liked it, because in the beginning I was thinking, okay, you studied all these complicated things, mechanical engineering, you know, you're thinking about building robots, but it's actually quite a complex challenge because you have sort of 2 problems to solve. On the one hand, you have an e-commerce store, which also admittedly is not the most difficult problem to solve, has been solved many times. But you have thousands of products in your product catalog. You need to build the checkout, you need to get people on your platform. So you kind of have that whole problem to solve. And you also have the logistics part. So you have like hundreds or dozens and hundreds of shoppers that you need to coordinate one by one to actually get the food delivered. And building those 2 systems in parallel from scratch was quite a big challenge, so that was very interesting. And so then the first kind of real war story that I remember still quite vividly is we needed products on our platform. So we didn't have any partnerships in place. we wanted to bring kind of all the big supermarket chains on the platform. And so there was a decision, okay, let's get Lidl on the platform. Because Lidl has kind of a small assortment of SKUs, I think like 3, 4, 5,000 that they sell pretty much in all the markets. Well, if you want to do a cooperation with Lidl, it's a big company. You need to kind of get it on the right level. You need to talk to them probably for a couple of weeks or months until you get anything done. And our goal was to bring the shop live in 2 weeks. So what did we do? And I think this is impressive about Rocket. Rocket was really like, let's just get it done. It was really kind of the startup, get your hands dirty and somehow get it done. You get the goal and you need to somehow figure it out. So what we did is we bought an entire Lidl. I was involved. We hired some people to help us. Essentially, it was like one was a good friend of my sister who was still in university. He just wanted to make like 10 or 15 euros an hour. And I was with them. We built kind of a small script so that we could type in a Google Sheet the products that we're buying. And then we bought 3,000 SKUs in the Lidl, I think, in 2 days. So we came with all these big boxes, and we just bought the entire supermarket. And the manager was coming to us like, what the hell are you doing? And I mean, what we were doing wasn't illegal, but it was like a little bit strange. We asked these questions. And then we had a freelance photographer who took kind of who took the photos, because we also didn't have the picture material. And 2 weeks later, we had Lidl live with 3,000 SKUs. So that was a crazy story. And I guess what I learned from that is really this kind of hands-on, get stuff done mentality, which Rocket actually did really well, I would say. So especially in like an early stage, when you don't have the corporations in place, you want to launch fast. That was an interesting way, super interesting experience. I don't know if I would do that again, but yeah, but it was great. So yeah, then I was working there for a few months. I got also more responsibility. And then after a while, I think it was a team event, I was talking to my CTO, and I was asking him kind of, can you give me some pointers, like can you give me some feedback? How am I doing, as a product manager? It's my first job straight out of university. I've been working maybe 4 months or something, like anything I can do better. And we were already drunk by that point. It was not like shit-faced drunk, but it was a kind of drunk where you're like a little bit more open and you kind of tell each other the truth. It was like, Julian, as a product manager, you have to be the shit umbrella. And I was like, what? Yeah, you have to be the shit umbrella. Like, there's only so much resources that you have to build your product, the development team, right? The developers, the designers. And everybody will come to them. And everyone has great ideas, but if you're trying to build all the ideas, nothing will get done. So it's your job to take all the shit, and I don't mean this in any offensive way, to take all the shit and to filter it and then feed it to the production team in small portions. It sounds really gross, I know. I mean, yeah. So we were. So that's a lesson I learned, and I mean, for those of you who are product managers or are reading product managers' blogs, you know that saying no is a very important attribute, and yeah, it was really difficult for me as a first job, especially being like 25-year-old, to play that role. It's something that you, I think, kind of grow into. It's important attribute because oftentimes kind of it's more important the things that you don't build than the things that you build. Cool. So another interesting aspect of Shopwings is we had a lot of founders, and the way that the founders concept worked at Rocket was very interesting, because a founder did not come up with the idea. Normally a founder is like, okay, I have an idea, I'm going to build my founders team, and then I'm going to hire some people. Rocket was the other way around. Kind of Rocket had the idea and was like, okay, we're going to build Instacart. Then we're going to hire a team to build it. And then we're going to hire the founder who is going to lead that team. And the typical founder was an ex-consultant, could be McKinsey, BCG, young, kind of late 20s, maybe early 30s, very driven, probably never worked in a startup before. So there you already see the potential for problems. And we had 5 of them, 5 founders. They wanted to launch fast and move fast. I don't know what all we had. I think we had a CMO, CTO, COO, CEO, and the fifth guy, CFO probably. So we had 5 founders. I think they were also switching roles. And yeah, it's true. And as a product manager, I learned a lot about stakeholder management because that's a super important part of being a product manager, and it kind of relates to my previous point about being the shit umbrella. Because all of these founders, at some point they had some issues also amongst themselves. Maybe when the company started not doing so well, so kind of heads up, Shopwings didn't survive, they started siloing a bit. But product is kind of the point where everybody has a say, right? You need marketing features, you need for operations, you need features for the shoppers to deliver the goods better, you need more products on the platform. And it's a big question of like, what do you prioritize against each other? And there was a time actually when I was the only product manager, so the more senior product managers left the company. And then for a while we didn't kind of fill that gap. The CTO also kind of wasn't really a big fan of product management, but I guess I got really well along with him, so he kept me around. And I was responsible for the product roadmap, of course, as a product manager, but I was still like 26, 27 was still my first job. And so I had to figure out how to deal with all these founders. And they were, I wouldn't say intimidating, but they were like very kind of pushy kind of personalities. You know, they would come to me like, Julian, we need to build this marketing feature. Like, come on. And then if you don't have the whole roadmap, or if they don't have time, it's really hard to agree on anything. So I came up with the concept of the product prioritization meeting, which we had once a week. And I think it was actually one of the few meetings where all the founders got together. And what I did is I made a nice roadmap. It was an Excel sheet. I listed all the features. Together with the CTO and the development team, I estimated the effort. I think we did t-shirt sizing. And then I got all the founders together and I let them estimate together, as a group with 5 founders, estimate the impact. And then I let them kind of battle it out. So then we had the 5 founders and myself standing around this product roadmap and discussing if which feature essentially should be on the top. I'm not saying this is the best approach to product management, kind of this building features and prioritizing by democracy, but in that situation it literally helped me survive. And I think it would help the product, the company as well, to do these trade-offs. And it helped me especially deflect these ad hoc requests. So when the marketing founder was coming to me and saying, Julian, we need this like new newsletter feature, I could tell him, yeah, but we just had the product prioritization meeting last week, or like 3 days ago, and there's these other 4 features that we all agreed on we need to build first. Just bring it to the next product prioritization meeting. It's once a week, and then we can discuss it. So yeah, so stakeholder management is super important. I think I also improved my format since then, but I think what's really important, what I learned from that, is to get everyone in the room and to get everyone on board. And I always noticed, not just there but also here, people kind of get antsy when they don't really know what is happening, when they don't know what the production team is building and when they don't know what the roadmap is. There's kind of sometimes this situation of like, why is everything so slow? So yeah, it's super important to communicate that early. Cool. What else? I think one thing I learned from Rocket, I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, is to not always reinvent the wheel either. So Rocket is known for being copycats, and I think they went too far. So it was literally like, you're building Instacart, well, Instacart has a green button. Why is our button not green? And then you basically had to either have a really, really good argument, like it was actually like, sometimes it was Oliver Samway who was calling with it, like, he went through the early stages of the product and he was like, I see this is different than Instacart. Yes, it's funny, I can't really do it well. He was like, yeah, no. Okay, the cart button looks different on Instacart. Why would you do it like this? And like, it sounds silly, but he was like a very intense man actually. I didn't talk to him personally, but essentially, I think we overdid it, but oftentimes I think when you have too much slack, you also start innovating on the things that you don't necessarily need to innovate on. And what I mean by that is every product has something that makes it unique, right? Something like a USP, something that makes the product special and that you should invest time on, that you actually need to innovate on. Like every product that you bring to the market hopefully brings some new aspects, like improves the usability, improves the value to the customers. But let's say if your product is not to build a calendar feature, but you need a calendar feature in your product, then probably if you look at someone like Google, who's like really good at building calendar features, that's a good starting point, right? And I think this is true for a lot of things, especially when you're early stage. It's always cool to try out new things, but I think it's important to ask yourself if innovating on that bit really makes a difference, and if you're really gonna like leverage something there. Or actually, for instance, in the venture that we're building now, there is a lot of competitors in the market. They've been there for a couple of years. Of course, they don't always know what they're doing, but apparently things that they started worked to some degree, right? So especially on things like, I think the calendar feature is actually a good example. I mean, it's something that has been built so many times, it's a proven design. Unless it's like your core functionality and you're building the most awesome calendar app, then you should innovate on that. Then you probably can, at least in the first version, just copy that. Yeah, so those were some of the lessons I learned. I'm really bad with timing. Let me take a look. 10 minutes. 10 more minutes. Okay, cool. But maybe I can, okay, then I'm going to actually do a switch towards some of the things I didn't learn, or some of the things I learned afterwards here at TV. I think one thing that Rocket did particularly well, and I was like hinting towards it in the beginning, is culture, right? So some people loved Rocket and some people hated it. I think it was a great place for young people who wanted to learn fast, to like spend 1 or 2 years there, to, especially at the time. Right now Rocket is really just doing kind of portfolio management, as far as I know. They're not really building new companies, but at the time they were really, especially in certain sections like in online marketing, they were really good. So if you went through that school in the right years for 1 or 2 years, as like a 25-year-old, you were probably better than most of the 30-plus-year-olds in the market. But it didn't really invest in its people, and it didn't really have this empathy, tolerance, seeking diversity, like a lot of things that I value here at DV. I must honestly admit Rocket didn't have. They didn't really try to keep their employees. I guess maybe they felt like they didn't need to because they had so many applicants. But I think it really hurt the company. Not just hurt the company, but also hurt definitely the working vibe. So it was like very intense. You had all these young people running around who didn't really know what they were doing, but kind of compensating it with working harder and being more pushy. So those were also some of the things you have to unlearn when you get out of that environment. And I think that's also important to remember. Some of those attributes can be super useful, especially in a certain environment, and some of the attributes maybe in another context, another culture, are not that useful. And yeah, the second part is this customer centricity, which at Rocket we also, we were quite number driven. This is something I liked about Rocket. So Rocket was all about having good tracking, having good analytics, and like knowing the numbers, but they weren't really innovative with the product so much. I always really missed that, so we didn't really do ethnographic research. And here, for instance, at DV, in an early stage, we really go out, we ask the customers. At Rocket, the answer was always like, how's Instacart doing it? Do it like Instacart, you know? They got millions, so they must know what they're doing. And on the one hand, it's true for a lot of things, but they also make mistakes. And I think if you want to be sustainable and you want to build a business that can keep developing, then you need to have a different culture. And you need to, you also need to talk to the users. And so those are two things that I really value at DV, and I think that I didn't learn so much at Rocket Internet. I think I might have a few more minutes, but I think that's it pretty much from me for now. So as you can see, it was an intense job. It was a good and rough school. I spent around the first 2 years of my product management and actually professional career there. I'm grateful in a way because it helped me from day one out of college to go into career product management, which I really enjoy and I want to keep doing. So I think I completely made the right choice there. And I guess for those of you who are thinking to go into product management or who just went into product management, I would just encourage you to keep going, to seek mentors, to read blogs. In the beginning, I think you can compensate a lot of missing experience with being super driven, being super curious, and just kind of over delivering. At least that's what I did, and it worked alright. And yeah, that's it pretty much from me. Thank you.